In the heart of a rain-swept city, where hurried footsteps echoed on wet pavement, stood an old, unassuming clock shop. Its windows, veiled in a thin layer of dust, couldn't hide the timeless dance of the hands within. Every clock, from grandfathers to cuckoos, ticked with a quiet, perfect rhythm. The shopkeeper, Mr. Alden, was a man as old as the stories the clocks told. He was gentle, kind, and moved with a deliberate slowness that seemed to defy the very commodity he sold. But beneath his calm exterior, a mystery hummed in the air, a secret woven into the very gears and springs of his timepieces. The shop wasn't just a place to buy clocks. It was a place where time itself seemed to hold its breath. One dreary afternoon, the bell above the door chimed, announcing the arrival of a young man named Evan. He clutched a broken wristwatch, its hands frozen in a moment of failure. "It just stopped," he said, his voice laced with the frustration of a day gone wrong. Mr. Alden took the watch with a practiced gentleness, his fingers tracing its silent face. "I'll see what I can do," he murmured, his voice as soft as the ticking that filled the room. As Evan waited, his eyes wandered through the forest of clocks, each one a universe of its own. His gaze eventually settled on a strange solitary piece tucked away in a shadowed corner. It was unlike any clock he had ever seen. Its face was a smooth, dark wood, completely bare of numbers or markings. There were no hands to mark the passing of hours or minutes. Instead, at its very center, a small, ethereal light pulsed with a soft, steady glow like a captured star. Curiosity got the better of him. "Excuse me," Evan began, interrupting the quiet symphony of ticks. "What kind of clock is that?" "The one without any numbers." Mr. Alden looked up from his work, a slow, knowing smile spreading across his face, crinkling the corners of his eyes. He followed Evan's gaze to the glowing clock. "Ah, that one," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "That clock doesn't tell time, my boy. It gives it back." Evan let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "Gives time back? What do you mean?" He thought it must be some kind of elaborate joke, a riddle for a new customer. Mr. Alden set down his tools and walked over to the mysterious clock, his hand hovering over its smooth surface. "When a person is filled with regret," he explained, "regret over time they've wasted, hours they wish they could have back, they often find their way here." He looked directly at Evan, his eyes holding a profound sincerity. "I don't just fix broken watches. Sometimes I fix broken hours." The idea was absurd, a fantasy pulled from a storybook. Evan shook his head, still smiling. "A lovely thought," he said, dismissing it as the charming eccentricity of an old man. Mr. Alden simply nodded and returned to Evan's watch. A few moments later he handed it back, ticking perfectly. "All fixed," he said. Evan paid, thanked him, and stepped back out into the rain-washed street. But as the door swung shut behind him, something felt different. The rain seemed to have eased, and a sliver of sun broke through the clouds, casting the wet pavement in a brilliant, golden light. The world seemed sharper, more vivid. On a whim, he pulled out his phone to check the time. His heart skipped a beat. It was an hour earlier than it should have been. An entire impossible hour had been added back into his day. The joke, he realized with a dizzying rush, was not a joke at all. From that day forward, the clock shop became Evan's sanctuary. He started visiting regularly, always with a new excuse, a watch that needed a polish, a clock at home that was running slow. Each time, he would speak of his regrets. An afternoon wasted scrolling on his phone. A morning he'd slept through, hours lost to procrastination. And each time, Mr. Alden would listen patiently before walking over to the glowing clock. With a quiet, reverent motion, he would wind a small, hidden key on its side. Evan never left with a bill, but he always left with a gift, another lost hour, seamlessly stitched back into the fabric of his life. He used the extra time to catch up on work, to finish projects he'd abandoned. It felt like a superpower, a secret advantage over the rest of the world. But one day, as Mr. Alden wound the clock, he paused. He turned to Evan, his usual warm smile replaced by a look of gentle concern. "There is a limit, Evan," he warned, his voice low and serious. "Time is not a thing to be endlessly reclaimed. It must be earned. If you keep taking back time you did not use wisely in the first place, you risk losing what truly matters. Be careful." Evan, high on his newfound ability to manipulate his own life, barely heard the warning. He nodded dismissively, thanked the old man, and left, the thrill of another recovered hour drowning out the quiet caution in Mr. Alden's voice. The temptation was too strong, the reward too immediate. Weeks turned into months. Evan's visits became more frequent, his requests more demanding. He no longer spoke of small regrets, but of entire days he wished he could redo. He had grown greedy. Then, one afternoon, as he stood before the strange clock, he noticed the light at its center was flickering, its once steady pulse now weak and erratic. As Mr. Alden turned the key, the light sputtered and died completely. The clock was now just a dark, silent piece of wood. "I'm sorry, Evan," the old man said softly. "There's no more time to give." A cold dread washed over Evan. He left the shop feeling strangely empty. That night, as he looked in the mirror, he recoiled in shock. Fine lines had appeared around his eyes, and streaks of gray had threaded through his hair. He looked older. A horrifying realization dawned on him. Every hour he had so greedily reclaimed had not been created from thin air. It had been borrowed, stolen. It had been taken from the other end of his life, pulled from his own future. He was aging faster, trading his tomorrows for his yesterdays. Panic seized him. He had to reverse it, to give the time back. He ran through the city streets, his heart pounding against his ribs, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He ran back to the little clock shop, desperate to find Mr. Alden, to beg him to fix his mistake. But when he arrived, breathless, at the familiar spot, the shop was gone. It had vanished as if it had never been there at all. In its place was just a brick wall, and taped to it was a single, small note. His hands trembled as he read the elegant script. It said, "Use time. Don't steal it." The clock shop never reappeared, and Evan never saw Mr. Alden again. But the lesson remained, etched into his very being. From that day on, Evan lived differently. He stopped chasing lost moments and started cherishing new ones. He worked with focus, studied with purpose, and savored his hours as if each one was a precious, unrepeatable gift. He learned that the true magic wasn't in getting time back, but in using it well the first time. And sometimes late at night, when the world was quiet and he could hear the gentle ticking of a nearby clock, he swore he could still hear Mr. Alden's voice, whispering on the breeze, "Every second is a gift, not a guarantee." Thank you for joining me for this story. If it touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that inspires.